Alright, so this video we're going to go over what will cause quantity to increase and price to increase in the supply and demand model. So we're going to go over this solution right here. So to do this, the only thing that will bring this about in the supply and demand model is an increase in demand. So let's say demand goes from the green demand line to the red demand line, and we'll label that D prime or D1, however you want to call it. So then the equilibrium goes from point A here in blue to point B in yellow. And what we see is that quantity, so we'll call this Q1, has increased from Q, and also price has increased from P to P, we'll call it P1, P prime. And that's a little bit off. I'll redraw that a little bit better. So let's just say that that's right there. Not too perfect, but close enough. So in order for quantity and price to increase, demand for a good has to increase. And so since in the last video we were talking about surfboards, we'll keep on talking about surfboards. So what would cause demand for surfboards to increase? So how are we going to get demand to increase? And there are 5 main ways that I have seen on entry-level first semester tests that you're expected to know will increase demand. So the first is a change in preferences. And that sounds kind of vague, but all it means is that people now want this thing more. So if we're talking about surfboards, maybe there's a gigantic promotion or a gigantic contest at Huntington Beach, and everyone goes and watches it, and after that they think, man, that sport is so cool, I want to go surf. So that would lead to an increase in people's demand or an increase in people's preferences, to not be repetitive, for surfboards, and that would lead them to buy more even at higher prices. So that's an example of an increase in demand or a change in preferences, however you want to say it. So the second one would be a decrease in the price of a complement. Decrease in price of a complement. And if you don't remember what a complement is, I'll have a video on that relationship. But basically, a complement is a good that you need to go with the good that you're analyzing. So again, that sounds kind of vague, but in this example, let's say that a wetsuit is a complement for a surfboard. Wetsuit. So the idea here is that you can't really surf without a wetsuit because the water is so cold. So when you decide that you want to go surfing, you need to buy a surfboard and a wetsuit. And if wetsuits get cheaper, now buying a surfboard and a wetsuit is cheaper. So more people will want to buy surfboards. Again, if that's a little bit too vague or it doesn't really stick for you, go back and see the video that I'll make on complements. The third thing is an increase in the price of a substitute. And a substitute is exactly what it sounds like. It's a good that can replace what you're talking about. So in this example, maybe a substitute for a surfboard is a boogie board, or a bodyboard, whatever you want to call it. So if all of a sudden boogie boards are more expensive, maybe when you go to the beach you'll say, you know what, I'll just go ahead and pay for a surfboard rather than pay for a boogie board because surfing's more fun and it's not that much more expensive. So if boogie boards become more expensive, more people are going to want to buy surfboards. And then the next 2 things I will also do separate videos for. So the next one is an increase in income if surfboards are a normal good. And all that a normal good is a good that people buy more of when they have more income. So let's say that you're going to buy food first, and then you're going to buy maybe a place to live, and then you're going to make sure that you have a good education, and all of these things come before your surfing budget. So as you get more and more money, or as everyone gets more and more money, more people are going to be able to afford to surf. And so that will lead to an increase in demand for surfboards if a surfboard is a normal good. Then there's also what is called an inferior good. And so I'm going to explain this after I talk about it. So a decrease in income will also lead to an increase in demand for an inferior good. So inferior goods are, by definition, they're goods that you spend more on when your income decreases. And the stereotypical inferior good is like top ramen. So you eat it when you're a college kid because you have no money. But after, when you get more and more money, you're going to pay for better food, and you're going to want less top ramen. So a surfboard is a horrible example here of an inferior good because there's no real way to justify buying more surfboards when you have less and less money. But when you have less money, you do buy more of some goods. Top ramen would be one example. So I will do separate little videos to explain this one, this one, this one, and this one in more detail. But those are all of the ways that I have seen an increase in demand be asked about on any of the exams for a first semester micro or macro test. So with that, I will see you in the next video.